Hey everyone, we're back. It's Tracy broadcasting live from New Hampshire Writers Project headquarters, and we are here with our last featured interview for our holiday showcase. And Skip, you get to close us for the month.
Oh boy,
I
one more
know
reason to be grateful, huh?
well, it's great to have you here. Is what they say, save the best for last?
Well,
So
thank
there
you.
you go.
I'll take it.
So, if you're not familiar with what the Holiday Showcase is, it is a collection of over 55 books from our member authors on our website that are showcasing all of their amazing work. And you can check it out and find that perfect gift for the book lover on your life, all on your list, all while supporting the local literary community. So, we'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But I want to jump into it with Skip. He has written a really interesting book, and he's got you've got a great journey of where you started too as a fighter pilot turned historical novelist. So, can you tell us a little bit about your early days and what led you to become a novelist?
Well, thank you, Tracy. Early days, I was flying F-4s off of Uncle Sam's large gray boats. I was in the um, South China Sea during some of that war, and other times in the Pacific, later in the Atlantic, Caribbean, Mediterranean. I don't think I got into the Indian Ocean, but that was just getting started. Um, I flew, as I say, Phantoms. In the early days, I flew an earlier plane called the F-8 Crusader. It was a Navy's first supersonic fighter. When I retired from the Navy, I eventually ended up flying in a flying job for a company called Atlas Air. It was the largest 747 fleet in the world. I think they've maintained that record. We were flying contract cargo for other airlines, and we would fly under their call signs, and occasionally the planes would be painted in their logos. So I got to see a lot of the rest of the world through flying with Atlas. I think I saw everything but Antarctica in my journeys with them. Unfortunately, everything was at 5,000 feet or higher, so I didn't get to see a lot of the countryside, and the stays were rather limited. But I did get to a lot of different places. But my final assignment, or next to the final assignment in the Navy, was in Sigonella, Sicily, flying a executive jet around the Mediterranean area and flying admirals and VIPs and that sort of people. And I got to see a great deal of Roman ruins, a lot of Greek ruins, some Norman, occasionally a few Egyptian ruins. And history had always interested me. And I took a tour of Istanbul one time with just a normal tour group, and they talked about the history of Constantinople, as it was known for a good bit of the time. It withstood 22 sieges, and on the 22nd siege, it was overrun by a army of Turkish people, whose leader, interestingly, was 26 years old. And I thought this was be a pretty exciting place to write a book about, and it was going to be titled The 22nd Siege. So I sat down, and in gathering all my backstory information, I eventually wound up reading about Gallienus and his father Valerian. And that was quite a bit further back in history than the time of the the Turkish taking over of Constantinople. But that history was all very interesting. And I remember thinking, I've got to stop somewhere, or I'll be back at the very beginning before I know it. And these people, well, Gallienus spoke to me. He was a 35-year-old patrician, son of a very well established patrician senator. To my knowledge, I visualize him as sort of a playboy, privileged character, and not having any idea of becoming an emperor, but all of a sudden one day, for a number of reasons that would be a little too lengthy to explain here, the Senate proclaimed him co-emperor of the entire region, the entire empire. And then his father, the following year, this was the fall of 253, the following year, his father went to Syria to contain a aggressive Persian king, and he took a good bit of the army, and he took a good bit of the senior leadership. So Gallienus is left to defend the entire western border. The northern border runs from the North Sea to the Black Sea, and all points in between. So he's got depleted forces. There have been two plagues in the one about 100 years earlier, and a plague that is going on at the time that he is ruling. They both have the same effects on the population that happened when the New World people came to our west or our East Coast and said hi to the Indians. The Indians didn't fare too well, and these were different types of plagues, and apparently the Romans didn't fare too well either. So they're depleted with all of those things. There were earthquakes and a few other odds and ends, but they call it the turbulent crisis of the 3rd century. And when you say turbulent period, it just scratches the surface. Well, how turbulent was it? Well, in the previous 42 years, prior to Gallienus assuming the title, 14 Roman emperors died violently, all but one killed by other Romans. So you stood a better chance of surviving a day on the battlefield than you did a night in your bedroom in that period. And yet he took it on. I don't think any of them figured it was ever going to happen to me, but he did his best, and he showed a lot of grit. He showed a lot of ability to handle very arduous situations, and he showed a lot of creativity. He created a kind of a mobile cavalry force. Rome was basically a foot soldier army, and he expanded the cavalry, and that enabled him to move around a great deal faster than you might otherwise.
Well, Skip, this is so interesting. One of the things I'm really particularly interested in too is, what was your research process like? Was it mostly internet based? Did you talk to historians? Did you revisit those areas and talk to people there? I'm just curious.
I started out reading some books. I found a couple of books on Gallienus. One French fellow had done his doctoral thesis on Gallienus, and I had that one. There was a guy from Australia that wrote a book about Gallienus. It called The Sexual Reformist Policies of the Emperor Gallienus, and that was kind of my Bible. It's a dog-eared copy that's just held together by who knows what, tape and chewing gum. But I got a great deal of basic information from him, and he did a lot of speculation on various things. And from there, anytime I came across a source that was interesting, I jumped into the bibliography, and I gathered books from those sources and went on and gathered books from those sources. I did a lot of internet search, Wikipedia, and other websites that dealt with the Roman Empire. I got some CDs from people that put out 5 or 6 volume CDs on the Roman Empire and various aspects. It was pretty tough to get interviews, so I didn't go that well. I mean, interviews with the main characters. They'd been dead for a few years.
Right.
So I had to go with that. I don't think I ever got into any live interviews with people, but a lot of extensive research.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's really fascinating. And I know you have a second book too that just came out, Solitary Journey, that continues the story, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how that story came into two books for you?
Uh, it was originally conceived as a one book um, program, but what happened is that it got so big as I was going along that I said I need to divide this into two parts, and I was fortunate to be able to find a break point that was roughly halfway through the writing and a convenient spot in the action. Um, each book is over 500 pages now, and so it would have been a monster text, and it's much easier to to handle these one at a time. I would advise people to read the first one first, although the second one's intended as a standalone document, but there's a lot of background information that would make it a lot richer if you start at the beginning.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Well, and I love how you put the genealogy together that can be found on your website too. It really takes people into the richness of the family and the characters and just better understanding more about them. What made you decide to put that genealogy together?
Well, for my own sake, initially, I put those together to keep track of who was with whom and their ages. And I created birthdays where none were actually given. And there are a lot of characters that are historical in there, and I had those in bold, and there were some fictitious ones that I added. And I arbitrarily decided in the fictitious cases how many children that person was going to have, and I flipped a coin to decide whether they were going to be a boy or a girl, and that's how those all worked out. But it is very helpful because the names are confusing, and I can't do anything about the confusing names. Some of them are very close together, and I've just kind of stuck with that. But the genealogies, I think, help keep straight who belongs to who and where in the line they all fit together.
Okay. Well, and I'm curious, did you paint your personality or any personalities of family and friends into any of the characters, or did you really go just straight from what you were reading in these other documents?
Gallienus had a reputation of having a sardonic personality, kind of like the Mutiny on the Bounty character, not the Captain Bligh, but the the other one. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But I had a cousin who that just fit his personality to a T. And so I try and write Gallienus as I think my cousin would behave in those given situations.
Interesting. Okay, I'm always curious when people write fiction if they do paint in either themselves or friends and family. So thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So if you want to learn more about Skip and take a look at his two books, you can find that on his website at skipcarter.biz. You can also read a sample chapter from his book as well, which will give you a taste of the story he's telling and the style of his writing. And so, Skip, I know that you have a give back strategy for your books this year as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, excuse me. I made a contribution to the New Hampshire Writers Project, and that is the greatest thing that happened to me in my writing career. I didn't know all the stuff that I needed to know when I first got into this writing business. I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade, and so I had very little formal training in English grammar and all of that. So there was a huge learning curve. The thing that attracted me the most about New Hampshire Writers Project was that it was a reputable site. And when you're first out there dabbling around the internet, looking for help, there's a number of these scam organizations that will offer you the moon and all kinds of promises. And most of them, well, probably all of them don't deliver. And you don't know which ones are which. But I found that the Writers Project was genuine. And there are people that are for hire there. I got a gal that I use for editing. I got cover design ideas from another fellow that the Writers Project introduced me to. Later, I got into going into the publication part. I knew nothing about, and obviously nothing about the marketing. And so thank God I found you on there. You have turned a dreary website into a thing that I'm proud to send people to. And you helped create a author's page on my Facebook page. And I highly recommend looking at both of them, because you've done a marvelous job with that. And I can't thank you enough for all the great stuff you've helped me with on the website and with the marketing, because once again, I have no idea how to do any of that. And that seems to be an expertise of yours that is extremely helpful.
Well, thank you, Skip, for those kind words. We really appreciate it. Yeah, it is a wonderful organization, and we have so many wonderful members that come and share of their expertise as well. So thank you to you for being a member, and thank you also for your generous donation back to the New Hampshire Writers Project. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching us today. We appreciate your support over the last 3 weeks. I can't even believe we're this close to Christmas, a week away. Thank you for your support of our members and of our local literary community. And thank you, Skip, for taking time out of your day to join me today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday. Take care, everyone.